And welcome to episode 76 of the TechnoBuffalo Show. I'm one of your two hosts for this week, Sean, editor-in-chief of the site, and I'm joined by Deputy Managing Editor Todd Hazelton.
Hey, everybody.
How are you doing this week, Todd?
I'm good. It's an interesting week.
It is an interesting week. And one quick bit of housekeeping news to those of you that join us on the Google Hangouts, especially keep an eye out next week because we may be moving homes. We're not sure yet. So we will put it out on Twitter and we will put it in the post for next week. But
just in terms of where this video goes.
Yeah, exactly. So just keep an eye out. You know, there may be some changes coming up. Nothing bad. We're not going away. The TechnoBuffalo Show is continuing. So a couple things we wanted to discuss this week. I know that's a surprise to you because normally we don't want to discuss anything. But
here in silence.
First off, so Apple released its financial reports and iPhone sales were down and everyone's acting like this is the apocalypse.
No, they're up. Sales were up. It was a record quarter for sales. Growth is starting to stagnate. That's the thing that has everybody worried.
Okay, so growth is stagnating. This is something I've always wondered about, even from back when I had a business and when I used to play the stock market a little bit. You know, everyone's like, "Oh, well, sales aren't growing like they should." Folks, there is a law of diminishing returns.
Yeah,
there are a finite number of people that will buy these devices.
Right, and Apple had some, quarters where it was going, year over year from 50 million sales to 70 million. And you're like, wow, that's crazy. And this year, I think year over year, it was like a 300,000 unit increase, which shows the plateau there. And you have to, look, Apple, we haven't colonized Mars. Apple can't go up there and start selling phones to, a whole new bunch of people. And in the past, what it did was it entered China, which was a big growth market, and now there's a lot of concerns, right? So iPad sales are down again, and continuing to show that trend because people are like, why do we upgrade? And there are other reports of saying, look, average selling price of the iPhone is decreasing too. Whether that says people are buying older models, which some analysts think, like, so they would buy the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus this year instead of the 6S and 6S Plus, or they're just buying the cheapest models. So like the 16 gig iPhone 6S. And so there's like a concern that they're not spending as much. And so Tim Cook sort of hinted yesterday that perhaps the iPhones are a little too expensive. I don't think that they're going to change anything, but I think, when you look at rumors about the iPhone 5 SE, that could be a low cost or a relatively low cost 4-inch phone, then maybe that's sort of a strategy shift. I think we're still going to see, though, the super expensive iPhone 7s and all that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And they also announced that there's now over 1 billion active iOS devices. There are only 7 billion people in the world.
Yeah, which is pretty incredible.
Now, mind you, yes, there are people like Todd and I who have multiple iOS devices. I have an iPad, I have an iPhone. In my family alone, my mother has an iPad, my father has an iPhone. So yes, there are people that have more than one iOS devices. We're not saying that there are 1 billion people in the world using an iOS device, but that's still the equivalent of 1/7 of the population.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
That's insane.
Yeah, I know Android's up there too. Google's published that in the past, 1 point something, I think, billion. But it's crazy. I think it's funny though. Like you said, there's just this confusion that seems to populate, at least on Twitter. People are like, but they sold record number of iPhones. How can people be so upset about this? And it's just that when you start to see that slowing growth, you wonder, like, okay, the iPhone, for example, is Apple's most profitable device, I think, in terms of like margins, and it had record profits, I think, for any company ever, I guess, for the quarter. So like very healthy, right? And they're sitting on a ton of cash. The question is, like, how long can they keep that up? If iPhone sales start to go down, then obviously so do profits and stuff like that. So they're just wondering, investors are looking for long-term growth. They're not saying like, a lot of these apps or people online are like buying and selling stocks like, today and tomorrow, just all the time. When you look at a company that's long-term, it's like, well, what's Apple going to be doing 10 years from now? And if it can't keep up these sales, like, where's it going to look next? And a lot of people are looking at like to the cars, Apple car rumors and stuff like that.
Which apparently Johnny Ive is not happy with the design.
Yeah, that was in the news this week too. it was like, I guess the progress of it, apparently the head of the Apple car is out, or whoever was leading it. And, I guess was upset, and we were talking about this briefly, but what can he get upset about? He's sort of like the head of design at Apple, right? So like he didn't like the way the car looked, or like, what does that mean? It doesn't, to me, and maybe I'm wrong here, but does it mean like he designed something awesome, the engineers can't get it to that state? Like, are there progress boundaries? Like they just can't physically do it, or they just don't like the looks of it? Like I have no idea what that, what he would be upset about.
Mind you, this is the same man that approved the new Magic Mouse with the charging port on the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. And apparently the Apple Pencil and all those kind of things. So.
Yeah. So we'll take this with a grain of salt for now.
Yeah.
But Jeff K asks an interesting question here. Speaking of the number of iOS devices, do you think it's more impressive than the number of Windows devices on the market? I think history is against Apple. I think they are destined to fall. When, though? And that's the thing. Every company that reaches these sorts of heights, which actually no company has ever reached these heights, every company that gets huge will eventually... try to say the word eventually. Every company that reaches these sorts of heights eventually does face a contraction. It's just the way the market works. And yes, Apple will fall. They will not collapse. They will not go back to the non-Steve Jobs era where they almost completely went bankrupt and he had to write in and save them. But yes, they will fall. It's just a question of how far they will fall. And as to when, I don't know. I think, from the rumors we're hearing about the iPhone 7 and even the iPhone 8, I do think they have some tricks up their sleeves that could, put them back at the top, could keep them from falling, too soon, but we won't know until we see them.
I think, and to your other question, do you think it's more impressive than the number of Windows devices on the market? I think Microsoft has said when Windows 10 rolled out anyway that there were like 1 billion people using it. So to me, it sounds sort of equally impressive. But obviously, Windows is totally different. Sort of, Apple was talking about iOS devices, so we're talking about what's in our pockets, and Windows has been, relatively, we're not talking about Windows Phone so much, but relatively just on our computers. So it seems to me like very different markets, but obviously that's going to change. So Apple, if computers are going into our pockets more, it seems like, well, then Apple sort of has a leg up in that industry, right? Because more people are already carrying iPhones, but I don't know. That's, again, like, I think part of the importance here is where's Apple going to go next? And as a matter of fact, everybody, when you look at these markets like virtual reality, Tim Cook sort of said it was cool and interesting yesterday. So you could see Apple going into that space, and there's been a lot of hints that it will, and into cars with the Apple Car. So I think really it's going to be about how well it executes on these new ideas. And historically, Apple has been very good at doing that, but can it continue to do that well?
Well, and again, here's my question. All these companies are excited about virtual reality, but has anyone asked the consumers yet?
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for that to find out.
But, yeah, and so that reminds me of sort of the smartphone game, where it was like consumers were starting to get interested in smartphones, but really weren't, addicted to them until Apple came into it. And it's going to be a matter, can Apple really put its magic into things? And I hate the word magic in Apple, but you know what I'm saying? Like, can it do that again? And it did so with tablets, right? But it would need to do it with virtual reality. And I think right now, a key point would be to, come at a lower cost and sort of do what Samsung's been doing. Because you need to show consumers what it's all about. Like, you and I have been to CES. We've put on these, $1,000 headsets, probably cost way more than that. Hooked them up to multi-$1,000 computers and been really impressed. But, I think at the end of the day, most consumers aren't going to have that chance. And so there needs to be a cheaper way to show consumers how awesome virtual reality is. And Samsung's done a good job of that. And so Apple could potentially do something along those lines too. It's sort of like the Apple Watch. Like, people have been doing smartwatches, but nobody was really paying attention until the Apple Watch came out. And you start to wonder, like, well, what can Apple make that popular too? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there's no question Apple still has a halo effect around it. They may be late to a party, but once they come to the party, everybody goes, oh, wait, there's been other devices like this?
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. We'll see where Apple ends up going. But one thing that Apple is working on, and actually has made it out into the market already, is with some smart home stuff. And that was another topic we wanted to touch on this week.
Yeah.
That I have finally dived into the world of smart homes, just dipped my toe in. I'm not as deep into it as you are yet. I don't have light bulbs and all that. But I did pick up an Amazon Echo finally. And here's the interesting thing. I wrote an article during CES about how it was starting to dawn on me that smart homes were going to be more for the elderly. How it could change the way they live, how it could do more things for them, it could make their lives better, let them live more independently. So as some people, that listen to the show know, I live with my elderly parents, I help them out. And so I got the Amazon Echo. They have used the Echo far more than I have. They are like obsessed with it.
The Echo is awesome when it listens. I think I've said on previous shows, it doesn't listen on my wife, which is
it listens to all three of us with no problem. What I found hilarious yesterday, Todd, was when I said, Alexa, over your speakers, and your Echo listened to me, but it won't listen to your wife.
Yeah, well, funny thing, today I was playing, speaking of the Echo, we have a post, I don't know if it went live yet, but it's about Amazon's Super Bowl commercial, and it's got Dan Marino and Alec Baldwin in it. It's pretty funny. It's like a teaser for it. And in it, they're like, Alexa, what's a oat crepe? Yeah, I was like, she's going to listen. So she responds all the time. And like in it, they were talking to her and asking her what something was. And she responded while I'm typing up the story, watching the video. And so I have to be careful about like when we're talking or when I'm playing a video, because then she starts doing stuff and it scares me. I'm like, oh,
right. No, I mean, it's a fascinating product. And what my family has been using it for mostly is to listening to music. And because they were never much into, going over to the CD player and changing out CDs. They never really got into MP3s. Right. But for them to be able to just sit there and go, Alexa, play Piano Man by Billy Joel, they're loving it. They are absolutely thrilled with it. And so I am going to be getting some light bulbs. I am going to be getting some other smart home products. And so it's going to be really interesting to see and watch how they interact, especially with it. Because, I've had elderly people in my life for as long as I can remember. And my grandmother, especially my maternal grandmother, she was afraid of technology like you wouldn't believe. I mean, she even on her DirecTV remote, she took a piece of paper and she put it over the remote and she cut holes for the only buttons she should touch.
Like volume up.
Yeah, exactly. Because she got tired of having to call me to come over and fix it for her when she would screw something up. So she made herself like a dummy guy that she could lay over the remote.
That's pretty funny.
But she is someone that, unfortunately she's passed, but I could see her using the Echo like crazy.
Yeah, because unlike all these other gadgets, and you're right, we were talking about this a little bit, especially at CES, is like for the elderly and stuff, because unlike these, what previously were complicated gadgets, I'm using quotes here, like remotes, the voice control is a totally different, area for the elderly, where they don't have to be afraid just because they're like, oh, like I don't get the menus and I don't get, all they have to do is say what they want and it works, for the most part. And I think that's what's so compelling, and it opens it up for more people than ever before.
Exactly. And I love asking, her what the forecast is. Although I have discovered one weird thing. As listeners of this show know, I'm a fan of Manchester United. She does not understand Manchester United. It seems like she can only give scores for U.S. teams and can only, tell you when the next game is for U.S. teams. She cannot grasp.
Have you gone through the Alexa app and seen if there's like a third-party plugin?
I did, and I haven't found anything yet. But I'm still digging.
A lot of them are kind of junky.
Yeah, I could tell by the reviews.
Yeah, they all have like 1 star.
Yeah, although I did have to laugh when I found a bingo app.
Oh yeah, like where there's games you can play with her. I haven't done any of those.
Yeah, well, apparently it's like a bingo caller. That just made me laugh for some reason.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I guess you could just sit here by yourself, like with a bingo marker.
Yeah, with a bingo card and a bingo marker, and Alexa will call out that's just like that's like the ultimate cat lady stereotype.
I was gonna say that. I mean, hey, you take that into like an old person home, and they'd go nuts for that thing.
Yeah,
what?
Yeah, they could. I think smart homes. We always look at technology as for the young, and I think the smart home market is going to eventually find that. I think the reason my parents are able to use it is because it's just more natural to them to speak.
I agree. Yeah.
And so, if smart homes continue down this particular road, I think that they could find that there's going to be a much larger market for this. The only problem is, of course, is the cost for entry into the market, and of course also deciding on which platform, because there's multiple platforms.
That's the hard thing too. I found, like, when you start to think about which one links up with which, and you're like, oh well, if it doesn't do that, like I was talking about in the previous episode, I have the Philips Hue bulbs that don't really work with my version of Philips Hue bulbs don't work with HomeKit, which is annoying because I'm like, oh, and that gets frustrating because, again, like we've talked about, it gets expensive too. I'm not going to go out and buy a whole new set of Philips Hue bulbs.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
One of the interesting things too, and we were talking, I don't want to say they're elderly, but my mother and father-in-law, they're actually pretty tech savvy, and recently we had the winter storm Jonas coming through here with the blizzard, and they were able to set the temperature at their beach house, which was down the Jersey Shore, which had some flooding and was right in the path of the storm too, to 70 degrees, just in case the power went out. And like, that's super warm. Why would you do that? But nobody's there. But just in case the power went out, so that it could still, keep the house relatively warm for longer. And I thought that was a cool idea. And it's something, when I bought them the Nest that they use to do that, I thought, oh, this will be great. They can turn on the air conditioner on their way down there in the summer and stuff. But I hadn't really thought about the winter and keeping the house warm remotely.
No,
and of course they did. They thought about it. So
that's a fabulous use case story right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I'm going to be getting a smart thermostat for here in my office because I'm at night. There's nobody in here, so why should I keep the heat up? Well, I would like it warmed up before I get to over here in the morning. So I'll get a smart thermostat and be able to control all that. But that's how far relative generally do they live from this beach?
Like an hour and a half. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That right there it's a very specific use case, but it's a very interesting use case.
Right.
Wow.
Something I'd never really thought about for a Nest, I guess.
Yeah. Well, how many people would? But that right there shows to me, there are a lot of use cases for smart homes. I think a lot of people have gone, oh, that's silly. And like I said, after CES, I thought the refrigerator with the cameras in it was silly, until I did find out that, yes, you could look at the pictures from your phone when you're at the grocery store.
Right.
And look, I'm not going to go out and buy a refrigerator just because it has cameras. But when I was and down the road, when I'm in the market for a new refrigerator, I might consider it.
Yeah. Especially if it just becomes like a standard feature, it can't cost much to add a little camera.
Yeah, exactly.
All of a sudden you're like, oh, that's pretty useful.
I hadn't heard the update to Apple's war chest. It's up to 216 billion. Wow.
Yeah.
Good grief.
They have a lot of cash.
That is a lot of cash. Well, let's dive into some of the questions we have here. From Sachin Bahal, do you guys believe the rumors of the iPhone 5 SE? I think that if Apple was going to make another 4-inch iPhone, that would use the mini or nano name for it. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know. There's been so many names for this rumor. It was iPhone 6C. It was iPhone 5E.
Yeah, it was
iPhone 5 SE now. I don't know. I believe it because the person reporting on it's Mark Gurman at 9 to 5 Mac, and he's pretty dead on with this stuff for usually. So it's hard to say like I don't believe it when he's reporting on it, unless you think like I saw somebody on Twitter say, are they trying to smoke out like whoever's leaking it? So, like, did they make up the name and see where it surfaces and see like, oh, that's where it's coming from? Because I agree, like those other names sound better, but Apple's done it in the past. We saw the iPhone 5S or iPhone 5C, so I think SE would probably work. To me, the funny thing is though, it's like it sounds like second edition, right? So that have been the iPhone 5S, and now we're like iPhone 5S SE.
Well, I think SE. My gut feeling is SE actually stands for special edition.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I do think the iPhone 5 SE does exist.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm actually pretty interested. I mean, like, I haven't used a 4-inch phone in a long time, but I would.
I've been helping my dad get used to his iPhone 5S, which is 4-inch, and I'm just like, oh my god, so tiny.
Yeah, it is kind of tiny, but I've been using. I think there's another question about. I've been using the 6P, and like it's a big phone. And same with my 6S Plus. I mean, they're both big phones, and sometimes I'm like, not too good.
From I'm going to try to pronounce this, Don Vojis. I'm so sorry. If I think of VR, I think about gaming, but what do you think VR can do for our daily lives? See, this is where I start to have problems with VR. I'm not sure what VR can do in the everyday life. I went to some demos at CES and they were like, oh, look at this concert. Oh, look at this movie. Those were interesting, but I couldn't see myself using them on a daily basis.
Right.
I think on a daily situation, we're looking more at like augmented reality. Like, we have this post from Jacob who finally got to try the Hololens. I think the HoloLens has a lot of interesting applications, be it from like the demo where they showed the woman trying to fix her sink and her father was able to draw, turn that
right.
and all that. I think that sort of use case is very interesting. But with virtual reality, I think the problem with VR in everyday life situations is that it closes you off too much to the outside world. And I like the idea of augmented reality if somebody could ever come up with a way that you could wear it on the street. But the idea of augmented reality being a heads-up display, I thought about this situation. Imagine if you had access to your contacts, because who hasn't walked up to someone, somebody walks up to you at a conference or something and you completely cannot remember their name.
That'd be awesome. Like facial recognition, like
yeah, just a little facial recognition in your glass going.
Us had like a third party, like non-official app that did something like that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know. In everyday life, I just don't know what they can do with virtual reality that's going to make it compelling to use it all the time. But
I think for classrooms and stuff, like we saw Buckingham Palace for was one of Google's expeditions or something for cardboard. I feel like that kind of stuff could be fun, especially for students, or like you're like reading about something in a book and you're like, oh, I want to see that, and you just put on like that could be sort of daily use case. Or I think it was Netflix CEO Reed Hastings. I think he was talking to Andreessen Horowitz, one of those venture capitalist firms, and he was saying, they were saying, like, where do you see Netflix in the coming 10, 20 years? Like, what happens when movies and TV shows aren't that great anymore? And he was sort of referring to virtual reality, or like, what is this next experience where movies, like sitting on your couch and watching a movie, is just old. Like nobody does that anymore. And he was saying like maybe it's virtual reality and stuff like that. So like, what's the next form of entertainment? And obviously that would be daily. I think gaming will be a big part of that. I know the answer is like, what else can it do? So it's like, how do you consume, TV shows and movies that way? Versus, I mean, I don't think it's like if you put on the Gear VR right now, you can sit in front of a huge movie screen, but I don't think that's like something everybody's going to do every day.
And the idea, though, of bringing VR to films or television, I don't know how much people are familiar with everything that's going on behind the camera. Filming a movie in 360 is going to be next to impossible. Oh, look, there's the boom mic. Oh, look, there's the video village where the director's sitting watching the monitors. Yeah, it'd
be super strange.
Yeah,
I don't even think I want to be like in the movie. Like, I mean, I guess like if they could do it, it would be neat, I guess. But I don't know. Whenever I put on VR, and this is right now, and I've used a lot of them, there's something like being transferred into that other world is really fun and exciting, especially for gaming. But when you're trying to focus on something like sit still and watch a movie, it feels very weird. right
Mhm.
now. And I don't know how they're going to get around those boundaries, because part of you is like, why don't I just do this in real life? You know, like when you're sitting in a fake movie theater or like sitting in a fake couch watching Netflix on a fake big screen TV, it's just kind of strange. You like the natural something about VR makes you want to move around and interact, and you can't really do that with a movie screen. So it's very strange.
Right. And also, you have to think about movie directors. They're trying to frame the frame of the picture is as much of a part of the story as what's being spoken.
Right.
And so letting you go willy-nilly into this world would take away a lot of the art of a film.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, because it's like a movie's like, you know, it's like, look at this, and this is, you know, that's part of the art, right? And instead you're like, oh, I can look at everything, and I guess it would just be very different.
yeah, look at the child extra over in the corner picking his nose.
Yeah, unless you ride, like, I'm just thinking about it. Like, if you think about it like a Western, and, you know, you're riding on a horse, and the main character's on this horse, and you're like kind of like in the film with them and watching this one person. I don't know. That could be kind of, it would just be strange.
It'd be very strange. Be very strange. From Brazen Franco, with the iPhone 6 starting at $549 and the iPhone 6s starting at $599, where do you think the iPhone 5s will fit price point wise? What do you think is more plausible, iPhone 5 SE with A9 or iPhone 5 SE with A8? All I know is it's really hard to say 5 SE.
Yeah, I think A9 should be where Apple goes, and rumor has it it would just replace the iPhone 6, you know, because they're going to move the 6S and 6S Plus down a notch, put the 5 SE in at the bottom, and put the iPhone 7 and iPhone 7 Plus at the top. So I'd like to see it with A9, because obviously you're going to have the new one in the new phones, in the iPhone 7s. And it brings it more on a par with the iPhone 6S and 6S Plus, which is what we're expecting. I don't know. I think it makes sense, and I don't know about the price, but you'd hope it goes somewhere like around, you know, I'd say $499 or lower, if Apple really wants to cater to that market.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Let's see here. From Jeff K. Are there any Android phones you guys are wanting? I know your daily drivers are Apple phones, but what would it take for you to switch? Well, our primary daily phones are Apple phones. I think both of us carry Androids as our secondaries.
Yeah, I guess technically. So I said this a couple weeks ago. I reactivated my Project Fi line in advance of, well, it was never on active, but I put it back in a phone. So that's in the 6P ahead of Mobile World Congress. And then I have the A9 because I had the red one, which I just think looks cool, and that has one line on it. So that's 2 Android phones, and then my iPhone. So I guess technically I'm skewing Android right now.
Well, yeah, because I carry the iPhone 6 Plus and an LG G3, and then I have my Nexus 6, which has my UK SIM in it, but I use it as a Wi-Fi device just because I really like the screen.
Yeah.
But of the upcoming Android phones, I don't know.
I'm interested in the Galaxy S7. I love the S6. I just always wish it sort of had better battery life and expandable storage, and it sounds like at least the expandable storage will be included. I don't know. I really like the BlackBerry Priv still too. I just I can't carry around 3 massive phones, and I've been using the 6P because I hadn't used it until just recently. I just got it, so it's CES. Probably go back to that soon.
I am intrigued by the G5.
Yeah.
I want to see what the heck they're doing with the G5. And
yeah, the latest rumors suggest they have that special accessory slot or something.
Like,
I wonder maybe virtual reality stuff.
And of course, Project Aria, I'm super interested in.
Yeah, whatever happened though? Like Google brought that up a little bit last year. They said we're going to do the demos down in Puerto Rico, I think, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And I was like,
and then they killed that. And I think maybe Google needs to stop speaking quite so much until they're sure of things.
Yeah.
Or like excuse me, Alphabet.
Yeah, right. Alphabet.
But yeah, maybe not announce things until you're 100% sure.
Well, they showed that it worked with hot swappable components, and then it sort of just went. They were going to demo it somewhere and start selling them, and they just never had. So I guess we got to wait until Google announces one of those. It's like, what was it? It was like their Project X kind of press conference, or Google X press conference kind of stuff. It wasn't really Google. And now that's a separate arm inside Alphabet, I think. So I don't know. It's not Google I/O though. We don't know when it's going to happen.
Jeff, your question about why is it so hard for us to block a certain commenter, I see it, I acknowledge it. I do not want to say why it's so difficult out loud, because that would give other people the idea of how to do it. But we do work on trying to block him. So I just didn't want Jeff to think that I was ignoring his question or dodging it. That's not something I would rather say why it's so difficult, because then we would have 20 fake mans. Anyway, moving on down the road here, okay, Don, I was having more trouble figuring out how to pronounce your first name. Okay, I pronounced your last name like voice. Got it. I always appreciate when people tell me how to pronounce their names. Okay, so let me just jump through here. I'm getting a lot of one-person things here. From Sachin Bahal, what do you guys think of smart things, especially since they're owned by Samsung? I got no problem with them. I think it's the same thing with what Todd and I were already saying, though. It's going to be okay, what works with this? What works with that?
Right, which platform do you choose? And I don't own any SmartThings gadgets that I know of, but I know. I guess Echo probably works with SmartThings. Probably, I don't know. I haven't tried it. I'd be surprised if it didn't.
You never know. I just noticed a horrible coffee stain on my cup that looks really bad on camera. Anyway,
I'm all out of coffee.
Oh, how can you be out of coffee? From Jeff K, I wonder what it'd be like to switch facial hairs with you two.
Oh man, if I had a beard.
Which leads me to my next point. Are you guys going to grab a Nexus phone with the price drop? I have no idea how those two things connected, and that's why I had to ask.
Which leads me to my next question. Beard, Nexus.
It was such a seamless transition.
I probably won't buy one because I have this one from Huawei at the press conference at CES. It's the gold 6P that I put in a case. But the 5X is super tempting. I was thinking about getting one. My wife's going to come with me to Barcelona for Mobile World Congress. And I was thinking like, oh, that'd be really convenient if I could have her on Project Fi 2 and get her a 5X. But you can't do like a Project Fi family plan. And I get like, so it's kind of, I'd have to tell her to go sign up for Project Fi. And I was just like, forget it. I'll just get her a SIM card there. But
that's annoying.
I had my eye on it. I was looking at getting the 5X too, but I didn't.
Yeah, I did find it interesting. Did you notice in the Vegas airport that there was a machine selling SIM cards by baggage claim?
Yes.
That's not something you see a lot around in the U.S.
Yeah. You see them. I mean, some of the New York airports, I think, have them, but yeah, in a lot of airports you don't. I know it's probably because they have a lot of international travel.
Yeah, I found that really interesting because that's something I'm used to seeing, like in Japan or England,
right? Like the major.
Yeah, but that surprised me when I spotted that in Vegas at baggage claim. Oh, how I love it, man! When your bags came up, how long did it take them?
I think they came out right away.
Over a half hour.
Oh man. After
we landed, our bags finally start coming up around the carousel.
Wow.
I was like, anytime now. Any old time.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it sucked.
But do you fly with priority? On Delta, I fly with priority, and I think they usually have the bags kind of close.
And they put the orange priority tag on my bag, and the baggage handlers never pay attention to those things.
Oh.
I think once or twice.
First bag. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, no, the American Airlines is real good about putting the orange priority tag on it, meaning my bag should come up in the first batch, and now the baggage handlers don't ever pay attention. From Mr. Sean, Todd, what have you returned lately?
Oh shoot, I think I did something. I don't remember. I have to return things to companies before they kill me.
That doesn't count.
Things. Yeah, I know. I didn't buy them. No, I don't know. I don't think I returned anything. I had my eye on some Razer keyboards, and I probably would have kept that though. like the Chroma. They had that big sale and I missed it, so I had really wanted to buy them, and they're like $170 though.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't picture paying that much for a keyboard. Jeff K is asking Sean, what have you returned lately? Does it count if I traded it in?
Yeah.
Okay, then I finally traded in my OnePlus One.
Oh, nice.
So that's it. I'm not big on returning things. Basically, once it arrives, it stays here for life.
See, but I like it because you can go to Best Buy and buy like the Apple new TV and play with it, and then be like, that's what I did. I think it's a good way to play with gadgets when you can't, like, I don't know. You check them out and see what it's all about. But unfortunately, I returned it. Now I kind of want it again. Now that the beta has live photo support and stuff like that, which is a couple of the things I said I wanted right from the get-go.
Yeah, I know. You know you're going to end up buying one again.
Probably, but not for a bit because we have so many of these things. First, I got to cancel cable, which is my next thing to do. Now that football is basically over, I'm going to watch the Super Bowl at a friend's house. So,
I did a cost analysis the other day. So when I left DirecTV, I was paying $150 a month. So I figured, okay, I have $150 a month to play with, and after my cable company getting me for overages and all that, and increasing my package, having to subscribe to another couple services, I'm saving $60 a month.
That adds up.
85 of it though was my freaking cable company.
Yeah,
but I'd still I'm not. Well, I would like to have been saving $150 a month. I'm still pretty happy with saving $60 a month.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
and on I don't know other things. Speaking of like returns, though, I'm excited. I'm super excited about the next Bit Robin that's coming, and I hope I don't want to return it. But
oh yeah, I forgot about that
new smartphone. It starts to ship middle of next month. I'm hoping it comes before Mobile World Congress. Mr. Sean's asking what I'm wearing on my wrist. It's the Under Armour. What do they call it? UA band. It's made by HTC. You can hold it up. It's pretty simple. It comes in the Under Armour workout box, and it's got a small screen. I like it because it automatically tracks sleep. So
that's cool.
Tell it to do that.
Cool.
So, and I found if I don't get my 8 hours, it's I'm feeling tired.
I can't remember the last time I got 8 hours.
Yeah, I go to bed early.
From such a Bahal, will there ever be one true smart home platform to rule them all? I think eventually it's just a question of how long it's going to take to get there.
That's the race right now. I think it'll end up being something, like Samsung and somebody owning it, or Google and Apple, or whatever. But that's sort of, the iOS Android thing where there'll probably be a couple. But right now they're all trying to figure it out. And there's just so much going on, and it's all kind of a mess. So somebody needs to come in, almost like the Uber of taxis, and just say, here's how it's going to work. And everybody's going to be like, oh. And, you start to wonder if it's going to be Amazon, just because the way, they don't have a lot of things besides the Echo, but it works so well that it needs to be a product like that where people are just like, oh, that's what a smart home is. I get it now.
Yeah. From Don Voice, you guys review a lot of products on your YouTube channel. What do you do with these products after reviewing them? The vast majority of them go back to the companies that send them to us. It varies by company. Some companies are like, no, we don't want that back. What are we going to do with it? But the vast majority of them do end up, as Todd was just saying, he has some products to return to companies before they kill them. So yeah, the vast majority of them do go back to the companies,
or they a lot of them will end up in Irvine, and we have a closet, and they come out for comparisons, so the G4, when the G5 comes out, we'll probably bring the G4 over to Barcelona with us, take pictures of them side by side, compare them, and then maybe when the review is done, we'll put them together too. It's sort of like a lot of comparisons. It sounds awesome to have all these products, and I'd never complain about it, but there becomes a point where you're like, there's just so many that you don't want them all anyway. You send them back because you're just you're not using them. They're just collecting dust, and we can't give them away. Sometimes you can give them to charity or something, if they're old and the company gives you permission to do that, but you can't sell them or anything. So
right,
it's just usually best to send them back anyway. Yeah. And then you end up my dilemma sort of, and it's like why we always talk about I return things. Like you also end up wanting a product that's yours, even though it's a company and they might not want it back. As a journalist, you're kind of like, I want something that like I own, and I want it to be all mine, and I don't have to worry about sending it back or anything like that. So I end up, eventually just buying it if I like it a lot, anyhow, in some form.
Yeah, no, generally I end up buying the stuff I really like as well, because
like the Priv we got, the company purchased, buy my own iPhones, buy my own lots of things, tablets, light bulbs. Amazon Echo.
From Mr. Sean, have you guys considered moving to California?
I have. I almost did. It's sort of always an option, I guess.
It's always an option, but I have nothing against California. I really like where I live.
My wife and my family are all here on the East Coast, and my wife works in the city, New York City, so it's just easier for us to be here.
Yep. Well, we are running out of time, and we still have a lot of questions, but I like closing out on a really geeky question here. So from Brazen Franco, finished watching all 121 episodes of Clone Wars. Is it okay for me to say that it was a lot better than episode 7? I've gone on record before. I loved Clone Wars. I thought it was fantastic. It was what the prequels should have been, really. Yeah, I would say it was better than episode 7, but you also got to remember you had 60 hours to get to know those characters.
That must be a lot of content.
Yeah, you had close to 2.5 hours for episode 7, and you had 60 hours to get to know the Clone Wars characters. But no, the Clone Wars cartoon, for anyone that hasn't watched it, it's really, really good, and it makes the prequels better. It doesn't save them, but it makes them better. Well, as always, we appreciate you joining us. As I said at the top of the show, we will be changing where the show is played in the future. So please keep an eye out on Twitter, as well as the weekly post that goes up. But it will still be through Hangouts. We're just going to be changing a couple things up. But the Techno-Buffalo Show will continue. It will still be us. We'll still be able to ask Todd what he's returned. As always, we appreciate you joining us. If you head over to the iTunes store and you search for the Techno-Buffalo Show, you can rate and review us, and we do appreciate that. Does help out the show. You can also find us on Pocket Cast. You can subscribe via RSS feed, or you can find us on the Stitcher app, which means you can listen to us anytime, anywhere. Basically, anywhere there's podcasts, you can find the Techno-Buffalo Show. Until next time, I'm Sean Ani. I'm the editor-in-chief of Techno-Buffalo. I've been joined by Deputy Managing Editor Todd Hazelton.
Bye, everybody.
Until next week, take it easy, everyone. Bye-bye.